Hey, friends. Welcome to the Raising Boys and Girls podcast. I'm Sissy Goff.
And I'm David Thomas, and we're so glad you joined us for this conversation. Let's dive in.
We are so excited for you to listen to this conversation with our friend, Dr. Alison Cook.
Folks are going to feel so hopeful.
Yes, they are.
It's so easy to just feel overwhelmed by the very topic of attachment, and she makes it feel practical, manageable,
grace-filled,
possible, hopeful.
And you guys, make sure you stick through the end because she gives us the most practical things to be doing in the carpool line.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. You're going to love this one with our friend, Dr. Alison Cook. Alison, we're so excited to have you back. We love every opportunity we have to intersect with you and are so grateful for your voice and the wisdom and truth and hopefulness that you bring to the world. So it's just so fun to get to have this conversation with you, and especially on attachment, because we trust your voice so much in so many spaces, but this one certainly included. So it's really a gift to us to get to talk with you about this. So we did an episode with kind of an overarching overview of attachment, but we want to dig deeper with you. And you often say that our earliest attachments shape the way we see the world and that we see ourselves. And we'd love to jump in with, how do you believe a child's attachment to their parents or caregivers affect their confidence, connection, and overall well-being?
Yes, such a great question.
It's a big one to start with.
Yeah, but it is so foundational, and it can also get misunderstood because there's some paradox in it, right? When our kids are really attached, when they feel safe, when they feel seen, when they feel like there's someone consistently there for them, it actually creates and empowers them to have more confidence, to have more courage. So that attachment, that word, sometimes I like to use the word presence to embody what we really mean by secure attachment, because it's not like we're trying to keep them attached to us. It's a paradox. As we create that safe space, that presence, that loving, attuned presence, they feel more equipped to go out into the world, and their nervous systems are more equipped not only to trust others, to kind of see the world as a place that they can navigate, that they can trust other people, that they don't have to have their guard up, but also to see their nervous systems, to trust their own nervous systems, to cue them to when there's danger, to when there's unsafety, because they've had that presence behind them, kind of giving them that anchoring place so that they know to listen to the cues their little bodies are sending them. You know, I don't like this, or I do like this. They learn a sort of healthy self-trust as they navigate the world. And so when a child consistently does receive that warmth, you know, that structured containment, because structure is a part of it, when they've been responded to, they really learn these core messages that I am safe. And it doesn't mean I'm ultimately safe, right? The world can still be scary, but I'm safe. I'm held in this world that is sometimes scary, that is sometimes dangerous. I matter, right? I'm worthy. I have worth. And so if something doesn't go right, like that doesn't feel good to me. I don't like being treated that way, right? That's a part of healthy attachment. And I can trust, meaning when others are safe, I can trust them. And when they're not, I can trust that I will pick up on those cues. And so this becomes the foundation for this confidence, healthy connection. And a word I know you guys are putting a lot out into coming up, resilience, right? I have what it takes.
Yeah. Yes,
it's a beautiful way to define it. Okay, how could parents recognize patterns like secure, anxious, or avoidant attachment in their kids?
Yeah, this is such another really great question, because when we're looking at our kids, again, sometimes we might think of a securely attached child might never have a need. They might never have the normal range of emotions. And that's not it at all. A securely attached child actually seeks comfort when they're upset. They come home and say to you, something happened today I don't feel good about, or they show it. in their body language. Because you're attuning to them. Part of attuning to our children is reading the nonverbal cues as much as we're reading their verbal cues, but they're showing that they're upset. They're also exploring independently, right? They will go out and try new things. They might fail, a couple of times. They might try things they're not very good at, but they're willing to do it. They're willing to put themselves out there. So with securely attached kids, we see kids who will take risks, who will kind of trip and fall from time to time, right? It doesn't mean everything goes perfectly. It means they have what it takes. They can take those risks because they've got someone to come home to and say, ouch, that hurt. Or I didn't like that, or that didn't go well, or this was awesome. I did it and it really worked out, right? This is what we see in a securely attached child. It's a little bit paradoxical. We see it when kids get older. Kids who have fairly anxious attachment or don't have that secure attachment actually have a harder time leaving home when it's time to go to college.
Yes.
The kids who have that secure anchor, actually, it's not that it comes without some challenges, but can make that next step. They're securely anchored. So when it's time to leave home, they do. They can. So there's a little bit of paradox in it for parents to see. These are good signs if your kid is coming to you. In the teenage years, I'll say to my parents, if your kid is coming to you kind of angry at you, this is a good sign. It doesn't mean you have to indulge that behavior, but it means you're safe enough that they're saying, I don't like this, right? It doesn't mean you have to let yourself be a doormat. That's not what we're talking about. It means that you've become that port in the storm where they're like, and sometimes they don't say it in the nicest way, but they're saying, I don't like it when you do that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If kids are saying, wow, have you become a safe place for them to practice verbalizing? And maybe you then in that parenting moment say, hey, I hear you. Ouch. That hurt, let's think about how you communicate that with me. But these are actually paradoxical, in some ways counterintuitive signs that you've become that safe place for your kids when they're communicating with you all the range of their emotions, when they're taking risks, when they're going out into the world and exploring and dealing with failure.
Yeah, such a great reminder. So thinking about parents who are now saying, well, what about my attachment style? What about my past? How would you say a parent's attachment style can show up in how they relate to their kids?
Yeah. And so this gets into the two kind of primary ways that we think about attachment. There are more than two, but just for simplicity, I like to think about anxiously attached and more avoidant attachment. Sometimes we're a mixture of both, right? And when there's been extreme trauma, when there's real deficits, we see what's called disorganized attachment, which is sort of an extreme version. But mostly I'd like to think about it as when we're anxiously attached. And this is also true for our kids. So it's true for us and it's true for our kids. When we're anxiously attached, we're clinging, right? We don't trust that someone will be there for me. And so we cling, and that might look like overthinking, constantly analyzing every cue someone is sending to us. It might look like overfunctioning, people pleasing, perfectionism, like all these things that we do to kind of manage our own anxiety and try to get people to stay. It comes out and underneath that is if I don't do these things, they'll leave. I don't trust that someone will just actually take me as I am and actually love me as I am. And so, that kind of anxious style comes out in a lot of those different ways. When we see the more avoidant style, whether in our kids or in ourselves, there's sort of a kind of self-sufficiency, like I don't need anybody, right? Or a minimization of needs. I'm fine. This didn't matter. It's fine, right? We kind of repress those emotions. We see an avoidance of conflict, right? And again, we see this in ourselves. We see, an anxiously attached person is kind of checking, are you still with me? Are you still with me? Did I do it perfectly enough? Did I please you enough? That's an anxious way of saying, I tend a little bit toward that. And even, if I have conflict with my husband, it'll be like, I'm displeasing you. And that actually doesn't help the conflict. That doesn't help us resolve it, right? You have to, there's that secure attachment says, this is how I felt, right? This is how I felt. And I trust that you'll be with me through that. And I'm also curious about how you felt. Right. But when I'm just trying to turn myself inside out to make sure you never feel a certain way, that's an anxious attachment. Avoidant would be, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm just going to throw it under the rug. Don't need to talk about it. It can kind of come out as passive aggression. I'm fine. But then later there's a dig that comes out sideways. Right. And so this is what we see in ourselves. And then we map this onto how we parent.
Okay, for a parent listening who didn't have secure attachment modeled for them growing up, what are some ways parents can help build or strengthen a secure attachment?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I have a couple of spoiler alert. I'm working on a project on this right now.
We're so excited about this.
Thrilled about that news.
And so I sort of have my own spin on it, but I think there are 3 primary channels for connectedness, which is really what's underneath attachment. It's our desire to be connected, to belong, right? And so the one that I think is most often talked about is with other people, right? We work through our attachment wounds, typically with a spouse or a close friend. They come out. And so when we're aware of them, that awareness, oh, this is what I'm doing. In the context of a safe relationship, we can begin to repair those, right? We can begin to notice, right now, I'm trying to make my house perfect so that when you come over, you will think I'm okay, And with a really good friend, you can begin to say, that's what's underneath this, and your friend is going to say, I love you if your house is a mess or not. And you begin to repair that, right? Through healthy relationships. But I also think of ourselves as an agent of secure attachment, how we begin to be present to the parts of ourselves. So if I can, through self-awareness, begin to notice and get curious about the part of me that is cleaning my house for 4 hours when I don't have the time to do it because I'm terrified that the people coming over for dinner will not just accept me as I am. I can begin to notice that and show compassion for that anxious part of me. Hey, it's okay. I get it. Right? I can begin that reparenting process of, this is hard. It's scary to trust that these folks might really just take me as I am. Right? So I can become a safe place for the parts of me that are scared. Right? That's really powerful for so many people. And that's really where I love to kind of bring that in. And then thirdly, I see the divine as a wonderful, however folks want to view God as our spirituality. I mean, ultimately, that ultimate place where we are seen and held and known and accepted, right, is that spiritual presence of a loving God, right? And so the more we can kind of notice what's happening inside of us, notice, I want to avoid this. I don't want to walk into this conflict. It's too painful. Have compassion for ourselves. Invite God, kind of imagine. I think about the power of imagining a God who maybe what we didn't get from our parents, but who steps in and says, I get it. I'm with you. Let's do this brave thing. Right. And so we take that little fleeting step into, okay, I'm going to try to do conflict in a different way. I'm going to try to bring something up. We've already begun to heal some of that inside of us before we've even got to the other person. So that's kind of how I think of those 3 agents of repair through ourselves, through whatever our relationship is with God, with the divine, and then with other people who love us.
So good. Well, so the parent who's listening thinking, I want to do all these things she's talking about, but I feel like I'm already failing. In particular, I'm failing with my kids and my attachment with them. Do you believe that damaged or insecure patterns of attachment, the types that you talked about, can be repaired over time?
Oh, I do. Yes. I think it's the work. I think it is the work that we are all called to do, right? Is to heal these wounds inside of us. And it is the work that spills out. The best gift we have to give to our kids. Because here's the thing, if I haven't dealt with my own anxiety as a parent, and I have done this a million times, what do? I project it onto my kids. And I'm rushing in to rescue my daughter from a situation with her friends that she didn't need rescuing from. She needed me to be with her as she navigated it with my presence. I've got to do that work inside of me in order to be that truly safe place for her, not that rescuing place for her, not that I'll fix it for you place for her, not that I'll minimize it and avoid it place for her, that truly safe place for her that says, this is hard. I'm with you. I'm not going to solve it for you, but I will not leave you as you go through this. For our little boys, they're going through stuff, right? So I think this is the work. And yes, this is the work we have to do and can do to become, and it's such fruitful work, to be able to kind of begin to feel what that feels like. It's like riding a bike. It's like, okay, I kind of notice that I'm anxious, but I'm not letting it take me over.
Yes.
I'm riding the bike, right? I'm riding the bike. I'm balanced. And I'm not swooping in to rescue my kids. I'm not swooping in to make this person like me. I notice the anxiety. It's there, but it's kind of over here, and we get a little distance from it until over time, we learn what that feels like when we never had it before, to have that confident, clear, not all the time. We get knocked out of it. Life knocks us out, but we can come back to that home base so much more quickly.
I love the way you talk about it. That not only makes it feel hopeful, it makes it feel really possible and practical too.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for the ways you talk about it. Okay, in moments of rupture, when we blow it, as we will as parents, what's the best way to move toward repair, specifically in terms of attachment?
When we blow it, I think the most important thing we can do, and it starts inside of us, right, with that awareness, self-awareness, I blew it. Gosh, that's half the battle, is to be able to genuinely, and that's when you become safe for yourself to say, oh, I just blew it. I was the one in the wrong, right? And I'm not defending it. I'm not rationalizing it. I'm not saying it's because if you hadn't done this, I'm the adult, right? Oh, I just blew it. And then part 2 is to own that with our kids. I blew it. I shouldn't have yelled. I didn't handle that right. That was on me. We are modeling, and it's not just our words. It's when I've done this work inside of myself, my nervous system is genuinely okay, right? I've become safe for myself to go, yeah, I blow it sometimes. And then my kid is catching that. I remember, Sissy, you talked about in your work on anxiety, our kids catch our anxiety, and they also catch our state of calmness, right?
Yes.
And so when we go to them and go, listen, honey, that was a parenting fail. I did not handle that well. I jumped in and I'm sorry. Can we hit the reset button on that conversation, right? Because we still need to have the conversation. Something happened. But the way I stepped into that, and they're going to catch that. And guess what? They're going to feel that in their bodies of what it's like to have the confidence to be able to say, oh, I blew it. Such a healthy skill for them to see modeled. So we don't have to be afraid of apologizing to our kids, and saying, here's what happened. Here's the truth. But that takes us doing our own work.
Yes. Well, thinking about emotional regulation for kids, for us, like you were saying, and that certainly is a piece of it. What does that look like for a securely attached child, and how can a parent help them move towards it themselves? What tips would you give?
Yeah, I think there are 3 kind of key words when I think about this journey of fostering secure attachment in our kids. Warmth, right? There's that unconditional positive regard. It's not that we don't get frustrated, but in general, a posture of warmth kids pick up on. Structure. And structure has to do with boundaries. It has to do with containment, right? It's not a free-for-all. There's structure. Kids need that. They do need our loving boundaries. They need our containment. We don't just let them have a free-for-all with their emotions. That's not what this is. This is a structure. This is I see what you're going through. I get it. And here's how we're going to contain it until we can talk about it, right? And then 3rd is the responsiveness. And responsiveness, I think about as kind of that attunement. We're again, if we see our kids struggling or having a big emotion, right? Responsiveness isn't only validating. I don't want to I think we can kind of get too much in those binaries, but responsiveness is naming. I see something that's happening here. I want to name it. I'm not avoiding it, that you just went into your room after school and slammed the door. Something happened. I see it. I don't have to fix it or rescue it, I don't need to feel rejected by it. But when I'm secure, I'm like, oh, something happened there. I can name it. And then the responsiveness in that naming is, hey, you seem upset. The door was slammed, right? And again, they pick up on our non-anxious presence. They pick up that you're not mad. You don't have an agenda. It's just this happened, right? And so in that responsiveness, we're naming. And then there might be a structure of, hey, I see that this happened. The structure, the boundaries might look like, when you feel better, when you are calmed down, we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, this did happen. So we're not going to just pretend like it didn't. And so those kind of ingredients are, again, we're naming it for, we're helping our kids to name things. We're not pretending like they don't happen. We're not trying to immediately fix them. It's so powerful. There's a warmth, there's a, if I am angry, if I do get upset, I'm coming back to them and saying, hey, I was angry. I'm sorry again, but I love you. I love you. I'm connected with you. And then there's that structure around. And again, this is so hard for us as adults in this emotional regulation. So structure, I think about the big emotions. It's like, I'm angry. I'm naming that. It isn't healthy for me right now to have this conversation with this friend who's hurt me. So I'm going to put a boundary around myself. I'm going to wait until 48 hours from now. That's a very clear, we have to do this with ourselves. And then I will be able to engage this conversation so we're kind of teaching our kids that you can have that emotion, but I need you to, here are the boundaries around it. You can't hit your sister. So if we need to put you in another room till you can be safe, we will do that. There is a structure, a containment for that.
So good.
I know. I'm so grateful that you're talking about that because I do feel like in this, thankfully, we are talking about attachment more than we ever have.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the boundaries piece of it is missed. And so I love that you're addressing all three things because you're right.
Yeah.
They feel so important equally, the warmth and the responsiveness and the boundaries. I love that equation for that, Alison. Thank you.
And we need that. Again, if we think about our own, that's what we needed from our parents because we didn't need our parents we needed them to be present to us. And we also needed them at times to be like, hey, this isn't okay.
Yes.
I'm going to be with you in it because that's part of growing resilience. That's part of growing confidence. It's not just having our boundaries with others. It's being able to receive the boundaries of others in a healthy way.
Okay, for a parent listening right now, what's one practical thing they could start doing today, this afternoon, this evening that helps nurture secure connection in their home?
Notice the moment just notice. You don't have to even do anything about it, but when you're sitting at the dinner table, notice, I feel anxious when my kid says that. I don't want to talk about that when they say that. Just begin to notice those moments. You will be shocked how often they come up. How often at the dinner table, your child says something, your husband says something, your wife says something, and an anxious part of you wants to redirect, wants to fix, wants to advise, wants to solve. Just begin to notice those moments. And then this next step is, what would it be like just for 30 seconds to not act on that impulse? Just give yourself a pause. It's fascinating what you discover when you just take a breath and notice how often we are operating in that way.
We know a lot of parents are doing the courageous work of trying to heal from their own stories. And maybe your project is going to help them do exactly that, which we're excited about. So thinking about a parent who is trying to untangle their own attachment wounds, how would you say, where can they start besides what you're saying? I mean, definitely the pausing and noticing feels like a piece of it. And so many of them feel so much guilt about what they feel like they're passing on already. So what would you say to that parent?
Oh gosh. First of all, we don't heal in the context of shame, including our own. We don't heal in the context of our own inner critic.
Mm.
So for those of you who have that, notice, I would say start with the inner critic. Oh, I'm just beating myself up.
Hmm.
You know, and that is actually where I have to start, because that's an anxious response. If I can just criticize myself enough, maybe I'll finally be a better parent. That's a sort of anxious energy inside of us. So to even start there and just say, what would it be like? And I like to think of the body as such a help for us when I'm sitting in the carpool lane, right? To just kind of even put my hand over my chest, take that deep breath, kind of find that feel. Okay, there's a little more spaciousness inside, right? Before everything comes in. And just give yourself a minute to feel that and sometimes the body's the quickest way to get there, with that hand on your heart, those 3 deep breaths of and I know, Sissy, you've written about this so much on anxiety, and it's so helpful.
Well, you're helping me. I'm just breathing deep as you're
Right?
talking about it. So thank you.
It's very powerful. And just, because we're reparenting ourselves in that moment. And that's where it starts. And so to the parents who are listening, I always say to my parents, you've got your however many kids, your 2 kids, your 3 kids, your 1 kid, your 4 kid. And guess what? You got another kid, and it's the one inside you. And she or he needs you just as much. And so in that moment where you're taking that breath, that's where you're sending love to that little 8-year-old inside of you. Hey, honey, I got you. I got you. You don't have to be here. This is not your job, because so often it's a young part of us that's anxious. It's a young part of us that is scared. It's a young part of us that's getting overwhelmed. And it's like, because she didn't have that secure presence. So when in that moment in the carpool lane where you're taking that breath, you might even say, hey, little one inside of me, this other child that I need to care for, it's okay. I got you. We're okay. And you're teaching yourself, I've got it. I've got it. I won't be perfect, but I've got it. What my kids need is just my presence. It's okay. And you're sort of reparenting. And that's the work that I'm leaning into in this project, is how do we kind of first retrain that little young one inside of us, what it's like to feel safe inside my own body.
So good.
So good. Okay, all 3 of us have seen overwhelming evidence of this next question. I'm so excited to hear you speak to it. What happens when 2 parents have very different attachment styles? How can they work together as a team when their instincts may not always align?
Yeah. I think just, first of all, if you're willing to there's some fantastic stuff out there on attachment styles. So the first part about it is just being willing to name and own your own tendency. It's hard when a partner maybe does behave avoidantly and doesn't acknowledge it, right? That's hard. And so if you're in that kind of situation, send them this podcast episode, say, hey, I listen to this. I think this might help us, in a way that isn't, it's like, I think naming these couple of things in a non-shaming way, we're both dealing with this, would be helpful. So just being able to name it, because then we do in the moment, we default to those neural pathways default to what we know. So I get anxious, you get avoidant, or I get avoidant. I just want to check out, peace out. We don't have to change on a dime, but when we can say to our partner, I can't talk about this right now. I'm overwhelmed. I promise I'll circle back, right? Because that's hard for me if I'm more avoidant. And then we build trust and we circle back, right? If like I was just saying, I had an incident last night where I started to get really anxious, like I can't tolerate the feeling of disconnection, even though you're being very normal and kind of naming something, right? To just say, hey, I'm getting anxious. I can feel myself, this is what's happening. I need to just take a time out, right? I can't fix it in this moment. And you build that trust with each other where it's like, let's come back, right? I always like to think about it like a dance, we're dancing. And I think about those old school dances from Little Women or Pride and Prejudice. They're not just arms wrapped around each other all the time, right? They're kind of together, but then they're apart. They're together, but they're apart. It's such a beautiful rhythm. And it's like, in this moment, let's come apart. So we're always going to circle back to each other. Doesn't mean we're leaving each other, but just really naming that for each other. I'll be back. I'll be back. But I got to step away for a minute. And that just helps soothe those parts of us that are like, you're going to leave me forever. No, I'll be back. I'll be back. Right. We're trying to kind of retrain each other to trust that.
Makes me think about Daniel Tiger singing Grown Ups Come Back. It's a good reminder always. Yeah. For every age. Yes, that's good. Well, Alison, you write beautifully about integrating faith and psychology, and we're so grateful you step into those places. Would love for you to talk about how understanding our own attachment patterns really does deepen our faith, because, I mean, you spoke to this as one of the 3 primary ways of attachment, but would love for you to talk more about that.
Yeah, I think as parents, the reassurance when we bring in that faith perspective, that spiritual perspective, the reassurance is, yes, on some level, here's the challenge for all of us. On some level, we are embodying our child's first glimpse of what love is like. It's a big deal. It's a big responsibility, right? From the moment a baby is born, when we are with them, they don't understand the concept of God or love. They are just taking it into their bodies based on how we are with them. That's a big challenge for us. So that's the challenge. But what's also true is we don't have to do it perfectly, because there is that loving presence, that divine presence, that ultimate attachment figure who has our backs, right? And who also has our kids' backs, And so for me, it's the most reassuring thing in the world when I think about attachment theory, because it does put a lot of pressure on parents. It does. You can, if you take out that spiritual piece to me, I'm like, whew, I really have to get this right. And it kind of just decompresses the nervous system a little bit to go, I am also held by one who is bigger, by one who knows intimately how to do this. I am also held in these early years with my kids as I am kind of embodying God's love for them through my body. I'm not doing this alone, but also God is also right there with them. God is right there with them, right? So to me, it's just sort of that layer of this whole attachment story that makes all the difference. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not doing it alone.
It's beautiful.
So good. Okay, where can folks find and follow along with all the amazing work you're doing?
Yes, I would love for folks to. I also have a podcast. I feel like it's a little bit of a counterpart to what you guys are doing, because I'm speaking primarily to adults. It's called The Best of You, and we just go through all sorts of different kind of materials relevant to adult healing and adult health. My website is dralisoncook.com. You can find everything there. I've written a couple of books. I would love for those of you who connected to this conversation, please go on, and I've got a bunch of freebies there, but we'll keep you posted as my new project comes out on this topic. So dralisoncook.com, that's where I am everywhere. And then the Best of You podcast.
And it's Alison with 1 L.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Important. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, friend. We're so grateful for this conversation.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the amazing work you're doing. So important.
Right back at you. Right back at you.
Dr. Alison Cook is a psychotherapist, best-selling author, and host of the top-ranked The Best of You podcast, where she brings her unique blend of psychological expertise and spiritual encouragement to listeners worldwide. She is the author of I Shouldn't Feel This Way and The Best of You, and co-author of Boundaries for Your Soul. Her work empowers individuals to experience healing and wholeness through inviting God's loving presence into every part of the soul. She and her husband, Joe, are the parents of 2 young adult children.
David, what a team we have that we get to call friends who help make this podcast possible. Chris Starrett, our engineer.
Our management team at KCH.
And we are thrilled to be a part of the That Sounds Fun network.
Our music was created by the insanely talented Dave Haywood of Lady A.
And if this podcast felt helpful to you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all the things.
We are grateful for you and cheering you on always.